Whether you are a professional boxer, amateur boxer, or someone simply interested in the sport, everyone can benefit from not breaking your hands. Hands are really important for your dexterity, allowing you to pull, push, and twist objects. And for boxers, it is really important as, for obvious reason, it is their money makers. Therefore, punching with the correct form and not taking your aggression out blindly on walls is imperative to keeping them safe. If you don't know me already, my name is Matthew Fayisa and I'm a medical student from London. On this channel, we make sports injury videos in easily digestible forms to kind of educate fans and also inform them of their favourite players' latest injuries. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can join our ever-growing sports medicine community and keep updated on all the videos I make. In sports, particularly combat and fighting sports, keeping your hands aligned when you throw a punch or carry out a movement is imperative to not only protecting the bones but also not adding more stress on the unsupported regions of the hand. If we focus on the palm and middle section of the hand and upwards, there are 5 metacarpal bones, 1 for each finger and thumb, and also 3 phalanges for each finger. The way to visualize this, if you look at your fingers, obviously there's creases, and that kind of shows where each joint is and where each bone kind of stops and starts. If you're watching this video, for demonstration purposes, if we all clench our fists together, don't worry about it being thumb in or thumb out, but when we kind of clench our fists, we can see that the phalanges are exposed, the proximal ones, the closest to the knuckles, and also the medial ones. And these are particularly vulnerable if you punch incorrectly and don't stack your punches, or sometimes punch with an open hand, and also can lead to increased risk for your wrist, as if you don't stack, your wrist can go up, down, kind of everts itself, and can cause damage to the ligaments and bones in that region. However, for the purpose of this video, we're going to focus on the boxer's fracture, which is the #1 hand fracture presented to healthcare professionals amongst the population. Boxer's fracture is a fracture to the 5th metacarpal bone of the pinky on the pinky side, and also can occur on the 4th metacarpal bone. To my knowledge, as I said earlier, the boxer's fracture is the #1 hand injury amongst the population and represents about 20% of injuries presented to A&E. The typical way this fracture presents itself or kind of occurs is typically if you punch a wall, which is an immovable object. The material of the wall is a lot stronger than the bones in your hands. Bones in your hand are quite weak actually. And when you punch the wall, imagine if you punch it like this, then it's going to cause that knuckle to cave in, and as a result of the pressure, cause this bone to snap. This fracture also occurs at a higher rate in sports such as bare knuckle boxing, which has recently come into fruition recently, and also boxing and MMA. If we focus on MMA, they're wearing really small gloves. I haven't got one to show here, but they are about 4 to 6 ounces. Due to the limited protection the glove provides and the general force that these fighters are kind of throwing their hands at, it's going to inevitably lead to a lot of hand injuries. You might wonder, however, why is it that only the pinky side, so the 5th metacarpal and 4th metacarpal bones are at risk, when typically the whole hand, is generally made of the same structure? Well, if I show you with a quick diagram, and I can also use my hands, the 1st and 2nd and typically 3rd metacarpal bones are supported by the wrist, the radial bone on the thumb side, and also the ulnar bone. So typically, just by evolution and anatomy, they are naturally supported. However, the 5th and the 4th are a little bit exposed, and as a result, there's an increased inherent risk of punching with the incorrect form. Some of the early signs that you may have a boxer's fracture is typically bruising and swelling accompanied with tenderness in that 5th metacarpal region just under the pinky finger. In addition to that, you also might see your knuckle as depressed, so it kind of, when you clench, it is kind of like dented inwards or bent inwards, and as a result, that is kind of visually a way to kind of indicate that perhaps you should go to A&E and check out whether you have an actual boxer's fracture and whether they can help you. If you experience this perhaps after a fight, after some training, or just in general life, the first thing I mentioned is to kind of go to A&E and let them check it out for you. They'll carry out an x-ray and see what is actually wrong, and perhaps if bones are actually broken or just bruised. In this x-ray, you can see that the fracture is on the pinky side and the knuckle has slight angulation towards the medial aspect of the hand. The reason it is important to go to A&E, as the treatment typically for boxer's fractures, based on my experience and also based on what I've read through various websites and research papers, is to use a splint. The splint physically reduces the space in the fracture and allows the hand and the broken fifth metacarpal bone to kind of re-heal in the correct orientation. This is really important. I have to stress this, as if you don't, as the bone re-heals, it will re-heal incorrectly and potentially leave your pinky finger curled up and kind of in a weird angle. In our current climate, a lot of energy and resources is put into treatment. However, this portion of the video is going to focus more on prevention, as in my opinion, prevention is the best cure, and by following these simple steps, we can try and focus on not allowing boxer's fracture to happen and reducing the chances of it occurring. So first things first, I think it goes without saying, don't punch walls. The walls will always win no matter how strong you think you are. The wall might look kind of bruised up and dented, however, it's won because it's broken your hand and caused you to be in a splint for a few weeks. Secondly, wear hand wraps. Hand wraps are a real vital thing in boxing. When you have boxing or MMA or any other combat sports, the hand wraps act as another physical layer that protect your knuckles and also support your wrist. I'm going to link in the description a video from a channel called Fight Tips, which is run by a guy called Tyson. I believe he focuses more on the MMA side of things. However, I really like the way he does these hand wraps, as it provides more extra reinforced protection for not only the knuckles, but also the wrists. Thirdly, wear boxing gloves. Boxing gloves are not only made to protect your opponent, but also to protect your hand. Whether you have bag gloves, sparring gloves, or just generally all-round boxing gloves, these gloves are imperative to not only protecting your hand, but also ensuring that you don't break any bones unnecessarily. The ones I have are, sparring gloves. These are 16 ounces. I don't fight, I don't do anything, but I just use it for, when I'm doing my own cardio or practicing some techniques in the gym or the leisure center. And these are really bulky gloves. I'm not going to lie to you, they're made by RDX. But what they do is they really protect your hands and make sure that you don't punch, bare knuckled and cause potential damage to it. However, I will say, because of this padding, they're really heavy. But you can always, downgrade to like 12 ounces, 14 ounces when hitting the bag if you want to feel a bit faster. But for me, because I'm nowhere near amateur status even, I'm just doing it for recreational use, I thought, let me give myself more padding just to ensure that I don't cause any unnecessary damage. Apart from that, I want to say thanks for watching the video. If there are any questions about boxer's fracture or any recommendations about other injuries that you want me to cover, make sure to comment down below and let me know. This can be from boxing specifically, MMA, or just generally any other sports. In addition to that, I'd like to say make sure to subscribe to the channel. We've got a good growing community here of people that are interested in sports medicine and injuries. So let me know what kind of videos you want to see. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Coarse hair, coarse my skin, soy sauce, I'm boisterous. I bun with your babes and feed the oysters. Oysters man think that they're hot like raw mustard. More time is sweeter than sponge cakes and birds custard. Fix your posture. I must have been 16, another cube buster. In co-op they had told me about the custer. Wasting time instead of grinding harder than you can, you muster. Bye bye the rules of stacking notes and making bands of sorts of. I think there's some